We're good? Since we're good. Okay, this meeting of the Millburn-Short Hills Business Organization, Inc. is hereby called to order. Today is Tuesday, September 12th, 2023. Tracy, would you like to read the Sunshine Statement?
Sure. Notice of the time, date, location, and agenda of this meeting, to the extent known, was provided at least 48 hours prior to the commencement of this meeting in the following manner, pursuant to the provisions of NJSA 10(4)-6, etc., the Open Public Meetings Act. Notice was posted in Town Hall and the Township's website by notification to newspapers on December 27, 2022, of the schedule for 2023, and by providing notice to the Township Clerk.
Thank you, Tracy. Please join me in the salute to the flag.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Can I ask, before everybody sits, we just take a quick moment? Jackie didn't have to remind me, but did remind me. Yesterday was the 22nd anniversary of September 11th, 2001. Just a day we all would soon forget, but could never. Thank you. All right, our submission statement as we start every meeting. The purpose of a special improvement district is to promote, grow, and support local businesses, property owners, residents, and visitors. Millburn Township SID ordinance designates a new district management corporation whose mission is to encourage the economic, cultural, and social vitality of Millburn Township through increased marketing and visibility, improved and renewed infrastructure, and local business development and engagement. Okay, Tracy, do we have any minutes for approval?
Roll call, should I do that first?
Oh, I skipped that, sorry.
That's
Yep,
okay.
please, thank you.
Okay. Alexa Clark. Tracy Katzlebine here. Jesse Molman.
Here.
Michael Parlavecchia.
Here.
Annette Romano.
Here.
Ashley Schultz.
Here.
Richard Wasserman.
Here.
Stephen Weiner is absent. This way. And Jackie Benjamin Lieberberg.
Here.
Thank you.
Minutes are attached. Anybody have questions on anything?
Can we have a motion to approve the minutes of June 15th, 2023?
So moved.
Second? Okay, the motion and a second, all in favor? Minutes are approved. Treasurer's report. Steve, are you taking that for
I am.
tonight? Thank you.
All right, good evening, everyone. Attachment 2 in your packets is our monthly report. Overall, the budget's in good shape as we head into the final quarter. As of August 31st, we had $114,875 in the bank, and at the end of last week, we had $113,920. On the income side, we've collected 99% of our assessment due, with only about $1,900 remaining to be collected. And I've been working with our tax collector on that minor outstanding balance. It's just a clerical issue. We're owed $2,000 from Essex County, which will be paid in December, January as part of our ART grant. And when we close that out, we'll get paid the remainder. And we have about $5,000 that's owed in various Girls' Night Out sponsorships. So we do have income that will be incoming. On the expense side, we're on pace to hit our targets for staffing, professional services, and operations. We're slightly over budget on email, tech, and website support. So there was some additional items that we needed this year, Adobe updates and stuff like that. So I've put that into the 2024 budget. We're also expecting to exceed the $28,000 budgeted for events. But as I mentioned, we will have new funds coming in, and then we anticipate getting sponsors for the events for the remainder of the year. If you look at the small box at the bottom of the page, I estimate that we're going to spend $91,500 on the remainder of the year, which will leave us with a small surplus of about $3,000. Will not require us to use any contingency funds. That number may go up slightly with the additional sponsorship money. So I think we'll be in the $3,000 to $5,000 ballpark at the end of the year in terms of what we carry over. And that's it. Any questions?
Anybody have any questions for Steve? on treasurer's report? Okay, if none, we will, thanks for pitching in, sir. Attorney's report, Ryan Cooper.
No, I have to do our audit.
Oh,
Yes, I apologize. So you all have the audit in your packets, attachment number 3. So we've completed our 2022 audit and filed our 990 tax return as well as our New Jersey Charities Bureau paperwork. It's the one that says Real Cops and Company on top. A copy is included in your packets and has been made available to the public. The audit was clean, we passed with no issues. The only recommendation was that we store electronic copies of each monthly bank statement so that it can be accessed by the auditor. If you remember, earlier this year, our bank Investors was bought by Citizens. And we had trouble accessing all of our digital records for a while. And so we had to get all the bank statements via mail. And it just delayed the process by a few weeks. There's paperwork that had to be filed and filled out. So we are now downloading all of the monthly statements and they will be available for the auditor as necessary. So other than that, it was a clean audit. And I just would like your vote to submit this to the Township Committee for the record.
just a question before we vote, if I can. Steve, this is the first year with this auditor.
Correct.
Right, we went out and shopped around a little bit. Were you satisfied with their service?
Extremely. They were very, very good. And we ran into that strange issue with not being able to access the statements. They were very cooperative. They spoke to the bank on our behalf. Overall, it was a very, very good experience, and the price was significantly less than what we've been paying before. So I think it was a win on both sides.
Terrific. Anybody have any questions on the audits before we vote to, all right, we'll have a motion to accept the audit and submit it to the township. May I have a motion, please?
So moved.
And second?
Second.
Perfect. Okay, we've got a motion and a second. Brian, do we need, can we do a voice vote on this?
Whatever your preference is.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
So we can send that to the township. Thank you. Steve, anything else under the treasurer's report?
That is all.
Okay, so now we go on. I jumped the gun before Ryan.
Sure, sure. So I'll give just a report, an update on the anticipated Bear Properties litigation mediation that's currently scheduled for May of next year. So you may recall, we've actually been talking about mediation in connection with this matter for a while. In fact, actually, just to start and reiterate, this is litigation that the CID is not a party to. So this is litigation between the township and private property owners who are within the CID challenging the ordinance. It's been pending for quite a while. So in the New Jersey Superior Court, where this is pending, in Essex County, there is a mandatory mediation program that sends almost all law division cases to at least a minimum 3 hours of mediation. So that's what this is a part of. It sounds like that's scheduled for May of 2024. For those of you who are not familiar with mediation, this is a non-binding alternative dispute resolution process. So there will be a third-party neutral who has probably already been appointed by the court and who will effectively, conduct what I call shuttle diplomacy. We go back and forth between the parties, seeing if there's opportunity for compromise. In some cases, they're binary propositions. It's an either or thing, and there's not, but many cases are subject to some kind of compromise. I haven't spoken to the township attorney on their view on this, and nor would it'd be nor would that be something they would share. But so I can't predict what's going to happen in that process. But what I would emphasize is that this is a mandatory process that applies to every single case. So there's nothing to be read into the very fact that the mediation is going to occur. And I'm happy to address questions and additional questions in executive session as well, if the board may have.
I'm glad you mentioned that, Ryan. I was going to say, if you had any questions, they're probably, unless it's about scheduling or something rather vanilla, otherwise better served in executive session. Anyone? Okay, and if you have questions, you can always reach out independently to Ryan. Thank you, Ryan.
Absolutely.
Okay, marketing and events report, Amanda and Steve. Sorry.
Okay, so last week, the Main Street closure pedestrian mall was reopened to vehicular traffic. This season, we hosted 30 live music performances and 15 of what we call the open streets programs, which included fitness and yoga and a children's chalk event, all by local businesses in the city. And so to gather feedback, we conducted a survey during the weekend of August 24th to 27th, which had 76 responses. And so I just wanted to give you guys a recap very quickly of some of those results. So we asked all of them to provide 3 words on the next slide that describe the mall. And as you can see, these are actually based on the popularity of response. So the bigger the word, the more frequently it was mentioned. Lively, community, fun, music, relaxing, and friendly, among others. We also asked about their favorite features, and the majority responded on the next slide with live music, dining, the fact that it's a pedestrian space with no cars, and public seating, which was a new enhancement this year. The next slide, Jesse, we have user trends. Just over 70% reported that they use the mall either daily, weekly, or multiple times a month. So that's great. The vast majority are using it frequently. Most visit on weekend evenings or weekday evenings, which makes sense, work schedules. And they reported that they spend on average $88 per visit. I think that's a great thing. $88 per visit is really an important piece of a local injection into our economy. 70% reported that they visit other businesses in town when they go to the space. So my favorite statistic is actually that point of origin, which is that 30% of the respondents are from surrounding communities, Maplewood, Summit, Springfield. I think it's a great sign that 1/3 of our users are choosing to spend their money in our SID when all of their communities have SIDs. And finally, 93 and 94% said that it's a positive addition. It should be done again in 2024, respectively. We did have some great comments on the next slide. So a lot of folks wanted more seating and more music and kids programs. Some suggested improvements like adding a crossing guard, timing the lights better for traffic, more active police traffic management, and potentially using Town Hall Plaza in May and June when we can't close Main Street because of school traffic, but they love the idea of having an outdoor space. Town Hall Plaza is the small road just adjacent to this building. Other suggestions including adding a dessert cart from local businesses. We almost had a gelato cart this year, but it fell through. Extending the closure or making it permanent. Adding umbrellas to the public seating, write that down, Amanda, and expanding the look and feel to other streets in the town. A lot of people really like that we have the overhead lighting. We also have it in the art alley. Some of the folks had said, you should do this on other streets. It makes it that much more walkable. So overall, it was a very successful season. We also have a letter that was signed by numerous downtown businesses in your packet. It was sent to the mayor last week. You have a copy of it as well. And finally, I do want to recognize that there were 2 serious medical events that occurred this summer. Firstly, on June 30th, approximately 10:30 a.m., a resident on Spring Street suffered a cardiac event. Thankfully, he survived, but he has spoken at township committee meetings about his concerns that the pedestrian mall negatively impacted the response time. Our business administrators investigated this, and based on the information he accessed, he found no evidence that the closure impacted response time, and he's gone on the record at the TC meeting concerning that. However, I and Amanda take this individual's concerns very seriously, and we will make sure, as we do always, that next year, if the street is closed, we will work with our first responders, EMS, fire, and police, to make sure that we're taking every available precaution to make sure that there's no conflicts. Secondly, on August 20th, a 49-year-old member of the band that was performing that day suffered a severe cardiac arrest while he was setting up. And unfortunately, even though he was treated by police and paramedics on site, when he reached the hospital, he did pass away. All that we know in my speaking with his bandmates is that he had been experiencing some ill feelings earlier that day, and then unfortunately succumbed. He left behind a wife and 3 children. So there was There were no claims that the closure impacted, his emergency service, but I thought it was appropriate to bring that up, given that it was a sad situation, certainly, that someone lost their life, but hopefully a little bit of bad news and a lot of good news. So thank you for that, and thank you for all your support over the summer. And my favorite thing is the kids making chalk all the time. Sorry, that was really somber.
It had a somber conclusion to an otherwise positive report. Anybody have any questions or comments on that portion?
I just wanna, good evening, everyone. I just wanna pipe in and just say, I spent, I would say, 8 to 10 Friday and or Saturday evenings at the street closure. It just worked out in our schedule this summer, so I could mosey downtown, be there when the bands were setting up, make the announcement that this programming was brought to you by Explore. Either before, after, or during those announcements, I can't even begin to quantify the amount of people that came over to me and said how wonderful this is, how much we appreciate it, how if we don't have anything to do, we just come down and we just kind of hang out, we'll get a coffee, grab a drink, an ice cream cone. My grandchildren love it. We do a circle, we'll do a lap. And I think it's been a wonderful addition to revitalizing the downtown at a time slots that were not normally active on a Saturday or Friday evening or a Sunday afternoon. I think it's driven engagement, and I've met lots of people from Summit, from our hometown, Jeff, Springfield, that come and participate and are always, so grateful. So I think it's been with something that started during the pandemic when restaurants were looking for outdoor space to accommodate. It's just been it's been a home run. And I want to thank Steve and Amanda for all their efforts with respect to programming and the bands and following up and the phone calls and the weather and all the things that make for a successful event. And it's been terrific. So kudos to you both.
Did we increase? Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry. Did we increase the kids programming this summer?
Yes.
Because when I was on the opportunities that I had to be downtown, it seemed like there were a lot of kids playing at the street closure, and that was new. Like from my comparison of last year, it seems like there were a lot of young kids that were playing while everybody else was dining.
Yeah, we added a bunch of new games this year, and then we also added 2 miniature picnic tables, which Amanda, I don't know where she found them, but they're great. Those were a big hit because it's funny, we see them moved all over the place over the weekend. And so people, and it's parents teaching their kids to play chess. I think that's really cute. The chalk, we go through. It must be 3 tons of chalk. It's unbelievable. I mean, the kids use it every day. And then I take pictures every day of all the different chalk designs because I just think it's a great expression of these kids who, some of them are really great. Some of them are just little kids writing their names, but it's really lovely. And I think it's a safe place for parents to have their children play while they dine. So yeah, I think definitely this year there was even more child engagement, which was great. And then we did a really awesome chalk takeover with Emily Konopinski, who owns the Green Door Studio. And we had about 30 kids on a Sunday night. It was great. It was really terrific.
Because that was a good focus. I mean, I just thought that was a nice added benefit, to have all the kids engaged.
It's something that Amanda and I talk about a lot is, finding sort of the identity of this town, right? I've said it in this meeting, some places are sports towns, some places are live music towns, some places are food towns. We're a family town. You have a lot of people who move here to raise young families. And so our programming needs to reflect that. And you'll hear about that with our Halloween plans. We're really trying to take that trajectory to cater to our main audience, which is these young families.
That's a good focus.
And I hear a lot of people come from other towns. When I go into the mall, people are saying, yeah, I came here from Springfield because you guys have this space where my kids can play while I eat.
And I knew that because when Eve and I were having dinner at the closure, there was a time where there were kids screaming, like screaming. I mean, I'm used to it, so it didn't bother me, but it was like, I'm like, who are those kids screaming? And I turned around there, and that's when I noticed all the kids playing. So it was nice to see.
Okay, my turn. Well, good evening, everyone. Okay, so last report, I'm gonna be as fast as I can. Just as a reminder, over the summer, actually I think earlier in the summer, we updated the business success kit and the hurricane preparedness kit. So those have been circulated to the businesses via email, social media. Steve sends out a weekly email. They're on our website. So something that, you know, we are in hurricane season, just want to reiterate that. We'll be posting it again. But those resources are there to help all the businesses. But moving on to events recap, the HerMD launch party was just awesome. The place was packed. They're up in the Wyoming district, and they had their staff from all over the country coming for this. I didn't recognize most of the people there, and I thought that was one of the most successful things of it, is they brought people in from all over the place. And they just created a beautiful space. They've been fantastic to work with, and I think they've been a great addition to the business community. So that was a really, really nice event. The next one, which several of you were at, was the business mixer that we had at Tonino's on the 31st. And so that was, it was kind of a combination. That part of it was a partnership with the chamber. And then people kind of moved over to Jack's Lobster Shack. And we had a lovely space upstairs, which I know they're trying to promote. And again, we needed to probably expand somewhere, but no one wanted to leave. And it was really nice to see so many businesses, so many new businesses. People are just opening up. And also to share what, you know, Explorer's been doing and achieving. And so we want to, thank Fernando for Tonino's and Greg at Jack's for hosting us, but really a lot of fun. Who is it? And Taste Buddy for providing the desserts. So yeah, I don't know if anyone has anything to comment, but it was just a really nice night.
Yes, killer carrot cake.
That carrot cake, incredible.
And also with the summer party, I missed that. We have two pieces of artwork that Jesus made and that we purchased with the public art program. And they were door prizes for businesses to take and publicly display. And one of our brand new businesses, Preferred Care at Home, won one of them, and then Linda's Florist won the other. So they're going to display them. I'm going to work up a little description for them to put by those, but that was kind of a neat way to tie everything together. A lot of fun. And so that was the anniversary party. The next one, which that almost happened, is the Biz for Kids event. And I'll just explain it first. The whole concept behind this, I know we've talked about it, but everyone was away for the summer, was to have a event that is focused on businesses that serve children. And so this is another way that we are trying to serve the rest of the CID. And the whole concept was that the kids come in, we give them little superhero capes, and then you can be the mom.
My kids were the actual models.
So you get a little cape, you pick out whether you have a lightning strike or a star or a shield. They get their little glasses, and then they go to each of the businesses to perform an activity, and then they earn a badge for their cape. So that's what it was all set up to be. We were ready to go, and then the lightning strikes and the thunder rolled, and we had to kind of huddle under the tents until we could make a decision. But I do want to pass out, in case everyone didn't see it. This was kind of what I explained to you, and then on the back of the activities the businesses were doing. So they really got creative. And
Thank you.
we look forward to, since we had to cancel it while we were there, we do look forward to rescheduling this, having it be its own event. And, most likely putting it inside. But it was really great. The businesses that participated, they were so enthusiastic and excited to connect with the community in this way. And so, yeah, I think the only negative was we couldn't have it. Otherwise, it's been a positive experience. Thank you to Tracy for coming and helping. Yeah, helping pack up, helping talk to people. So yeah, we're really excited about this, and we're gonna make it happen at some point. Does anyone have any questions?
So from what I gather, there's no dating on any of this branding, so we
The
could,
reason there was no
Yeah, which
dating
is
is
so-
because Rocktoberfest had a rain date, so
Right.
I wanted to be prepared for that.
so, and now it's perfectly.
Right. Ready to go.
Ready to go for the
Plug it
next,
in.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's great,
Yeah, smart.
that's great.
So talking about kid programming, we're really trying to zone in on these things. And we would have had more businesses, some of them that had commitments were away or they were having staffing challenges. So since we have it kind of already ready to go, I think we'll be able to get more people involved when we do reschedule it. Okay, moving on to fall and winter events. So this year, last year at Halloween, a lot of the businesses really wanted to do something and we ended up helping them with candy and things like that. But we're building upon that this year. A lot of towns have like fall festivals and other things. And so what we're having is what is called Fall into Millburn. It was actually Vicky's idea to have something like this. And it's supposed to be a nice community event with engagement with the businesses. We've created a little trail. It's essentially a rectangle walk for kids to paint pumpkins, play yard games. There's a costume contest. We're going to do another chalk event with Emily. And then as they're making their way around, they stop at the businesses and get their candy and other things like that. So just something very simple, but we're going to do it on Halloween. And it's kind of aimed towards the preschooler age group. So we're looking forward to doing that. And we're going to utilize Town Hall Plaza for the chalk area. So it's a safe space for them there. And we're using the art alley. We're going to do a little like pumpkin patch. They pick their pumpkin, they paint their pumpkin. So I don't know if I'm missing anything.
Perfect.
But yeah, so that'll be a new thing for us. We'll see how it goes. And then, any questions?
This is October 23rd.
You have an older copy.
Gotcha.
Because you actually printed it. Had you let me print it?
So it will take place on Halloween
Yeah.
Day,
Yes.
October 31st.
Yeah, we changed a couple things.
Okay.
Yeah.
That was publicized.
And
Okay.
how are you marketing it to draw these kids?
We're going to be doing the normal things of getting the events out on event listings, but we're also going to do some specific targeted outreach to preschools and nursery schools and things like that.
Perfect.
So
Great.
that I think will be, we will do Macaroni Kid if they have a new person in charge. They've had a staffing change there. But yeah, that was really helpful. And I know the Work Moms group on, was it Facebook?
Yeah.
They are fantastic. We get a lot of response.
Yeah, if you get a posting on there, that'll take care of it.
Yeah,
And-
pretty much.
And newcomers you can probably do also.
Yeah, I'm actually putting the marketing together for each of the events now.
So that's a rain or shine event, October
It's
31st.
a shine
It's a shine
event.
event.
We just said it happens or it doesn't. So yeah, that's coming up. And then here for the holidays, which I know a lot of you went to last year, we had it at Home Street, where the various businesses that have services you need to host for the holidays were there. So we're gonna have that again with a slightly different focus. The attendees that responded to our post-event surveys said they really want to shop. And last year was kind of about demonstrating services and things like that. We'd had some things for sale, but these people want to come and shop. So we're going to make it more of a market. And we're having it at 565 Millburn Avenue. It's Upper Millburn where the old bridal shop was. Yeah, so it's a great space. We'll get to kind of build it out the way we need to. They also have a parking lot behind there. So I'm looking forward to pulling this all together. That is a date change. We moved it back 1 week. It is now gonna be on November 9th.
And that'll be immediate thing, right?
Yeah.
What night of the week is that?
So it's a Thursday. And we do Thursdays because businesses that we polled in the last year's survey said Thursdays are the good night. So yeah, so that's coming together as well. Any questions? Okay. We
How
are,
is that space compared to the home street? Is it a little bit, it's not as big, right?
it's a different shape.
It's about the same size in terms of square footage, but Homes was subdivided. If you remember, there's probably 6 different rooms. This is one giant open space.
Right.
It's a total industrial look.
Yeah.
We have to have a cleaning crew go in and get it up, but it's a big space. Plenty of on-street parking. It has the parking lot. So it's the only, if we're gonna do something like this, it's either Home Street, which is now occupied, or this.
Yeah, we don't have.
So
any
once
options.
this goes up and becomes occupied, which I think next year will be based on what we've been doing, I think here for the holidays might have to,
Well,
we're gonna have nowhere to put it.
yeah, we're gonna have to get a tent. Yeah, so any other questions? Okay. Small Business Saturday, we want to do more than we did last year, but we're still working out those details. So once we have those, we'll share those with you. But we want to go bigger on Small Business Saturday. We are going to do the Winter Villages again. I think most of you went to at least one of them. The first one will be downtown. The dates would be December 2nd through 3rd, keeping it simple, the igloos, the fire pits, the s'mores, maybe another couple options there with the food, but people had a blast. They just, families, met there to hang out with their kids, and so why change something that's working? So we're gonna also do that again at Short Hill Station the next weekend.
So the Winter Villages will be, there's no street closure, so they'll be in,
We're gonna close the street that weekend.
oh, you are, okay.
Yeah, so that's December 2nd and 3rd. It'll actually be in place and active. And then
Amanda, I know we have time for this, but having been at the Winter Village in Short Hill Station last year, which was great, to make up some type of little handout about the businesses in that area. And even letting people know like other places they can go in town, because like people, in fact, what date is it? Will if the winter lights are up, things like that, like so, it would be great to let people know other places they can go, because yeah, it was interesting, as you've said, a mix of local people and folks coming from other areas.
well, it's good to hear these things now, because September and October are my time to get ready, and then we're just working constantly for 6 weeks, so.
Yeah.
Any ideas or things like that, please bring them to me. But yeah, that's the plan, just see if there's anything else. Yeah, so Jesse, can you bring up the website? We debuted this at the anniversary party at Jack's. Since there's so much public art now, we wanted to put at least a trail together, so if people are interested, they can walk around. This is still, under development. We're gonna be making some tweaks to the site. But this lists all of the public art pieces that are in the area, including sculptures. And it also has links for you to click to learn more about the artists. And then we have this little map that kind of takes you around to
This
check the
is so
places out.
great. I love that we have an art trail.
Yes.
That's really exciting.
It's only gonna get better.
And it kind of goes with explore, art, explore, art trail, explore, yeah.
Yes, there's a lot we can do with it.
That is.
Explore the art.
And we're gonna add the 2 pieces that are going to Linda's Florist.
The featured artist too.
And Preferred Care Home, which Preferred Care Home is where Amy's Pilates was. This is one of my favorites.
I love that.
Another thing I wanted to do on day one when I started.
Yeah.
So they have parking kiosks with no art on it. That's a shame.
Is there room for more art?
Oh, for sure.
Speaking of which.
Yeah. Maybe-
Davey,
Give you a
let's move
softball
over
there.
to Steve.
All right, so this year, the public art was funded by Essex County. We received a grant for about $7,800. I applied probably about 4 weeks ago or so for a second year of funding. We applied for $10,000, $3,000 for personnel, $5,000 to pay artists, and then $2,000 to market the town and the program. There's a cash match that's required. So we'll be putting up $10,000 of our own. And then if we're awarded the full staffing money, we can actually remove $3,000 from Amanda's line that we pay out of our bank account and have that paid by Essex County, which would be nice. And then we can reallocate that money to events and things like that. So 7,800 was great this year. It got us 7 pieces, right? I think. So I think more public art was done this year under this grant than ever in the history of Millburn in 1 year. So we're very excited. We hope that we get the Essex County money again. So I'm very thankful to the county for providing that service. I think we'll know probably November, December if we get it. And I'll talk about it when I make the budget presentation.
I'm sorry, you'll know when?
Probably November, December if we get it.
So that would be for the calendar year 2024.
Correct. My turn.
You're up.
Okay, great. So lot 14 and the public signage. So if you remember, the township was planning on redeveloping the lot 14, which is behind the Bagel Pantry building on Upper Millburn. That project has been delayed until 2024. However, we were asked by our business administrator to develop the sign program like we've done in downtown and other areas. So we proceeded with that, and there was no reason that we couldn't do the signage program because it's not physically in the lot. So the township approved a contract with Commercial District Services, which has done the previous sign work for wayfinding and welcome signage on Upper Millburn. There will be 6 new directional signs and then 2 new welcome signs. All of those will have the branding that we've put forth with the same fonts. There'll be the Upper Millburn Avenue yellow color, which matches all the other branding for Upper Millburn. We have 5 districts, 5 branded colors. And then I've met with the vendor a number of times. We've gone through everything, making sure that the arrows are pointing the right way. And we've worked with our engineering team here in town to make sure certain signposts can only have a certain number of signs and they can only be a certain height and all those kinds of things. So we've gone through all the technical stuff, and I'm expecting installation probably in early to mid-October. And then our part of that job will be done. We may go back and do additional signage when the lot is finished. There's going to be, they believe, electric charging stations. So we may include business-oriented signage on the charging stations, some pedestrian directional signage and things, but that's all to be figured out once the lot is completed. So we're very happy thus far, and I expect within the next probably 4 to 6 weeks the signage will be completed. Parking committee. So I am on the town's parking committee with Annette. And we had a meeting in July. We discussed a bunch of issues that impact the CID. Especially really it was a focus on, I know this is near and dear to Jackie's heart, especially as business owners and employees who park on the streets or don't get parking passes. And so we had a whole list of recommendations that will eventually filter their way up to the township committee. Most of these will require an ordinance change. But let me just read off my notes because we had quite a bit of a discussion. I had proposed eliminating the annual and semi-annual permits, and that was actually Stephen Weiner had brought this up as a concern, is that we're going to now put in a program of quarterly permits because we have a lot of service businesses in town, right? And you've got people who may be only working for 3 or 4 months, and they know that, and they don't want to buy an annual pass because it's a waste of money. So we're going to reduce that, and then we're going to make it an online renewal. So every quarter you just go on and get a new. Your physical pass will remain on the car. It will just, its validity will renew. So we're excited about that. We're also trying to incentivize parking in the deck by creating a program where if you're an employee or a business owner, you will be able to park for 12 hours without having to go back and repay the meter. So that would cover an entire restaurant shift for instance. So currently you can only park for 3 hours in the deck without having to come back and get another ticket. We would eliminate that, and hopefully that's a way to keep people from parking in the municipal lots where we want customers and on the street where I obviously want customers. So part of this is to try to incentivize people to use the unused space in the deck. Angled parking has been implemented in front of the Millburn Deli, which I'm sure many of you've seen. The hope there was to stop double parking. We have a lot of delivery drivers as well as folks just picking up food. This one is a passion project of Annette as well. And the angled parking was put in about a month ago. Overall, it's worked out pretty well. Some of the kinks that we thought were going to happen haven't. The only concern we have at the moment is the right turns off of Main Street. Going onto Millburn, it is a bit of a blind turn if someone's backing out. So there haven't been any accidents, there haven't been any major concerns, but we're gonna see how it continues to work now that school's back in session. And Alex and I are in constant communication about potentially changing the way it's lined out. But right now, it's been a pretty successful experiment. And the most important thing is I think double parking has basically been eliminated. There really isn't any. So that's been successful. Been working with the town on some improvements for Essex Street. We discussed removing the, on our way to dinner tonight, we talked about this as we stare at the streets, removing the right turn on red prohibition. So when you're coming down Old Short Hills Road, you want to make a right on Essex, you can't because it's a no, you can't turn right on red. That is a huge reason for the congestion that you see there because obviously it's a choke point. We've got people coming from the middle school. There are periods where there's no traffic coming down Essex because of the way the lights are timed, but you can't make a right on red. Even if we can move 3 or 4 cars a light cycle through, it would alleviate some of the congestion when you multiply it out per hour. So that's something that Alex and I are discussing. I'm also on the committee. I don't know if you are, I don't think so. But we're on the committee for the Essex Street two-way project. So that has been going on probably about a year and a half now. We have an engineering team who's looking at converting Essex Street into a two-way, the entire length. So their final report, or the newest iteration of the report, is going to be presented to myself and the rest of the committee next week. My main concern has been pedestrian safety and parking lot access. There are a couple of parking lots, including the parking deck, where you would have to cross over oncoming traffic. So there's a whole host of vehicle and pedestrian conflict issues that need to be worked out, but I think it's just, at least we're moving in the right direction. We're having the discussion about converting Essex Street to a two-way. So I'll have an update at our next meeting. And then the final thing, I guess this is one of those good news, bad news kinds of things. I'm getting complaints from folks who typically use lot 4, which is behind the old movie theater, the new Charles Schwab, that there are no more parking spaces in that lot because now everyone is inside working at Charles Schwab. And so we've got a new business, we have new workers, but we don't have enough parking spaces. Parking is finite in the downtown. And so I went out earlier this week and I walked Church and Taylor and Main and took an inventory of where we could potentially add new spaces if we change some of the striping, as well as changing some of the time restrictions, or maybe just giving people that have purchased a parking pass already that are entitled to those spaces the opportunity to park on the street without enforcement. So that's something that Alex and I are working on. There's going to be, I'm sure multiple conversations about how we can do this, but victims of our own success in that respect. There's just a lot of people working in the downtown, so we need to find new parking options. And I will report on that as well. Similarly, I was able to present on August 18th to the town's zoning subcommittee. So that is a group of people that are on zoning, planning, historic pres, handful of other folks, about some potential zoning improvements in the downtown, which actually stemmed from our State of the SID report, which I do every 6 months. The next one will be in October. In that report, I had talked about some of the concerns that I had about our zoning compared to changes in the retail sector that we're certainly experiencing, not only locally, but nationally. I recommended allowing for certain high pedestrian traffic medical uses in the downtown. Right now, it requires a variance for medical use. I think a good example is a pediatrician. Mom comes down with her 2 kids to go to the pediatrician. She'll go to the bookstore, she'll buy a slice of pizza, she'll go to the baby clothes store. That's a good way of creating a spin-off industry. Why, they should not only be isolated to some of those medical areas in Wyoming, for instance. And then also, we have a prohibition against office space on the first floor in downtown. most towns now, even nationally, are reviewing their design standards to say, well, if we want to encourage office space, that's good for pedestrian traffic. Those are people that are going to spend money during the day and maybe come back at night. What if we put in design standards to say the windows have to be a certain size? They have to have public art in them. You have to have a worker in there to create life. And so I was surprised. I didn't expect the municipal planner to pull up his PowerPoint that had the exact same things that I was talking about. And he even joked, we didn't plan this. But these are all things that are gonna have to make their way up through the channels of the zoning boards and the TC. But I think it was encouraging for the zoning subcommittee to be on the same page with us, since sometimes we come from different worlds. They're on the regulatory side, we're on the economic development side. This was an opportunity for those two concepts to merge. So hopefully that will be something that we change in the downtown. Next, we did a lot this summer. Business safety and security seminar. So Jackie's our liaison to our advisory committee, which is made up of 15 business owners. At our last meeting, they had actually asked us to speak with the police chief about a business safety seminar. Jesse was nice enough to contact the chief for us. We are going to conduct a business safety seminar at some point, probably, I would hope in the next 6 to 8 weeks, with the police department. It's going to focus on some common issues that we see in the business districts, which are physical safety of stores, right? Do you have a security camera? Do you have an alarm system? What should they be doing in your facility, right? How should you wire them and all those kinds of things? Safety of workers, especially at night, in parking lots. We do have a lot of folks that do work at night. A lot of our lots are not well lit. How can you protect yourself? And then something that's becoming all the more prevalent in town, unfortunately, identity and credit card fraud issues. We did have a business that recently that was targeted and lost quite a bit of money. And so those are things that I want to make the business community aware of, especially with all of the online sales, over the phone sales. You know, in a new digital post-COVID world, you may never meet your customer. And so these are important things. So hopefully we'll get that done, and then we'll let everybody know in the business community to attend those. With that, are there any questions before I go into our 2024 workshop?
I just have a question. Would you use like the EDC, that organization about credit card fraud, or would you have, who would run that seminar?
The police department,
The police department, yeah.
because they're the ones that have to investigate these eventually. I mean, it does kick its way up to the state and to the county, but the police are the local.
The angled parking, what I noticed when I was standing there, when people turn off of Main Street, they automatically go into that outer lane. They're not in that close lane.
Well, I think that's why we haven't seen any accidents, so
So they're not.
it's a good thing.
Yeah,
It's a good problem to
they're
have.
not swinging into that first lane. Also, the 2-hour parking back there, Church and Blaine, that was all put in because of the high school.
Mm.
That's why that's all 2-hour parking back there, because the high school kids were parking there and leaving their cars all day. So that's why that was done. And then finally, do we have an ordinance that store windows can't be covered, like at night? Like you have to be able to see in the store?
I couldn't tell you if there is an ordinance or not. I don't know.
Livingston had an issue, or was it Livingston or West Orange, by the zoo?
We probably have a prohibition
his
against roll down
windows,
gates. That's my assumption. A lot of towns in New Jersey do. I think, you know, your question is important, because as a business owner, right, what kind of lighting do you have inside? You know, do you have an alarm? I would imagine a lot of businesses don't have alarms.
Oh, yeah.
You know, even little things like, how many keys have you given out over the years that you never got back? You know, how often do you change your locks, especially, you know, with businesses that have high turnover employees like restaurants? You know, all somebody needs to do is pocket a key. I think it would be fair to say the vast majority of robberies are inside jobs, right? I mean, nobody wants to actually walk in an old bank robbery style with a gun, right? You go in when nobody's there. And so those are all things to be cognizant of as a business owner. Hopefully the police will
I
explain
thought
that.
that was the case years ago, because I mean, if you're in a store by yourself and it, you know, it starts to get dark out and anybody can walk in the store, so, you know, your windows shouldn't be blocked so that people walk by.
I don't know. I'll look into it. I'm not sure.
I wanted to just circle back for a second with the parking deck. Are we following the occupancy of the parking deck and because I know that it went from being like very empty. Is that being followed right now?
Yeah, so Alex reports on that every quarter at our parking meeting. I would say we're probably north of 50% occupancy. I think the challenge is going to be that you're never going to have a commuter traffic you're used to, right? So a building that was built for a specific intent will never see that intent materialize. You have to think about using it differently.
Right.
Where do we have a problem? On-street parking from business owners and employees. We can address that by moving them to the parking deck, which is in a capacity.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking, yeah.
So I think we solve the commuter problem by solving the parking on the street problem.
Yeah, so we should just keep our focus, make sure that we use it as much as we can.
Yeah, and so that'll be, eventually, I guess, Annette's responsibility, on the TC to, they'd have to amend the parking permit ordinances and things, but
Yeah.
I think it's a no-brainer to try to get people up there.
Yeah.
Do we think that lot 14 will have has adequate parking for now that we've had all those new businesses up there? Are you facing some of the same challenges in that location?
I think lot 14 is very, very well used. The folks that are going to be living in the Springfield metropolitan will be prohibited from parking there unless they're shopping. That'll be something we have to monitor, I think, from law enforcement, because someone's going to try to cheat, right? At some point, you're visiting me, go park in that lot and walk over. I think the key is that we have a lot of street parking on Upper Millburn, especially as you go towards the metropolitan, because those are all parking spaces in Millburn. The challenge there is I think people don't like to walk the distance.
Right.
But it's not that there's not enough parking, it's just a little bit far from where they want to be.
And the parking in front of the Metropolitan is Springfield, am I correct?
No, that's in Millburn.
So all along Millburn Avenue is all Millburn.
It's all public
Okay.
parking. Yeah.
The streets
So-
are all Millburn.
The streets
So
are
if there's a
all
call that
Millburn.
comes in on the street in front of the Metropolitan, our police is going to respond first.
And you pay our meters.
So the whole, where all that construction is all us.
That's actually the back of the building.
Right.
Right, there's the entrance is off to the side, I think.
Well, the curb
There's
line
no-
in is Springfield, right? Everything from the curb out is Millburn. So, there's probably 25 plus spots on both sides of the street, if not more.
Oh,
So,
no, I think more.
Yeah.
And it all the way up, all the way to the corner, correct?
Yeah, it goes pretty much the whole way.
Is there a parking kiosk on that side?
There
A
will
pay
be.
station, yes.
Is there a pay station?
And when does the Metropolitan open?
We've been trying to figure that out.
Haven't gotten a response on that.
If you drive by, which I do every day, the
making
construction
progress.
they're already putting in the florals now, in
Very
front,
nice.
so,
Yeah.
they're pretty much at the end. I think like any other development, it's gonna be staged, they're gonna try to, fill building by building by building, it's just easier to manage it that way, but, I would imagine that, they were shooting for, when I last spoke to them, they were shooting for September to be open, and they look like they're pretty close,
It's
so.
getting close, yeah. And are we gonna keep that top of mind in terms of having our businesses market to
Absolutely.
all these hundreds of new people coming to Springfield?
I've been reaching out to them, trying to get more information about when they expect to start occupancy, how many units, all that. So as soon as we have more information, we can prepare for that.
Right.
Yeah, all those new neighbors are naturals for all of our.
Yeah, we're
businesses.
gonna be hosting a street festival next spring on Upper Millburn, with the goal of trying to attract those Springfield residents who are going to Springfield schools and paying Springfield taxes to walk 5 feet over to the businesses in Millburn. So,
Right.
we're gonna roll out the welcome wagon on Upper Millburn this spring.
Right,
That's
and and literally have some kind of, we had talked about some kind of welcome wagon, kind of, coupon booklet, whatever,
Whatever.
to give them.
Yep, that is in the works.
Great.
Yeah, great.
So we've talked a lot, but I do need to get to the workshop planning discussion because our next meeting in October is our annual meeting where we have to do some budget issues. So I want to just go through the handouts. Attachment 6 in your packets is a spreadsheet. It's mostly green, a couple yellows. I really just want to set some context of what we've been doing in 2023 and why I'm presenting the budget as it is in 2024. So this is the 2023 EMSH Success Tracker, Attachment 6. So just to briefly summarize, this year we've hosted 16 business advocacy or education programs. By far the most were popular were search engine optimization and anything that had to do with social media. And so we're going to focus on that next year. The business development financials were not as successful. And so we've heard what people want. We're going to give them what they want. All of those classes, though, are available on our website, either recordings or PowerPoints. So if you go to our resources page, they are up there in perpetuity. We've also hosted 17 events with 4 more scheduled for the remainder of the year. We've done 5 public art projects. 2 more were door prizes, so 7 in total. We created new seating in the courtyard area behind Coffee Mill Roasters. If you've been there, we call it the Oasis. It's really been a very, very well enjoyed spot. Then we've also mulched 50 tree pits and installed 33 planters, among other things. So that's just a quick overview. Then proposed 2024 services, that is attachment 7. I'm not going to spend too much time on this, but this is basically how we are going to start developing our program portfolio for 2024. So we want to come up with some new ideas. We want to add more games and entertainment in the summer. We were talking about a video game takeover or a chalk takeover event in the outer districts. Changing the music program to focus on more acoustic artists. We've heard from some of the restaurants and users that some of the rock bands were a little much. And so we're going to try to focus on a different style. We're also going to dedicate a significant amount of effort to businesses that we call off the grid. There are 500 businesses in our district. There's probably 150 or so that have no modern connections, no social media, no website, no online sales, nothing. That is a death sentence in the 21st century. And so Amanda worked with our wonderful intern over the summer to get data on all those folks. And in 2024, we're going to spend a lot of effort on trying to give them remedial social media training. Literally, how do you open an Instagram account? I get calls. I literally was on one today with a very well-established business. Had no idea that Instagram had analytics on it. Didn't know the difference between a reel, a story, and a post. And I said, you need to know those things if you're going to be doing social media. And so, by the way, you're going to have a meeting next week with that person and sit down and do an Instagram audit. But you know what? That's what we're here for. I mean, we get calls constantly about social media issues. Not everybody can be as fancy as Taste Buddy, but that's a role that we're playing now. It's a role that no Sid played 10 years ago. Now it's a priority. So we're going to focus on those off the grid businesses. We're also going to work on industry specific things like Biz for Kids. We're hoping to secure some funding to improve the streetscaping on Morris Turnpike. That's been a passion project for Tracy. And I have an application in the works to the Vibrant Communities program right now, which is run out of the state. Hopefully we'll get some funding to do some streetscaping out there. We'd love also to do streetscaping on Upper Millburn Avenue. It is a tree desert. I know Richard many years ago wanted trees, and I would love to find some money to get some trees out there. And of course, more public art pieces, which we talked about through the grant. Also, Tracy brought this up at a couple of meetings where what we'd really like to do is create some more robust public engagement campaigns on social media about what the SID is, and explaining what we do, what this entity is, how it's managed, so that the public understands that these events don't just pop up, that they take a lot of hard work and planning and support from volunteers. So there's a couple of things that we're going to work on with social media campaigns related to that. So then if you go to attachment 8, which is our draft 2024 event schedule, doesn't really deviate much from this year. I think we found a pretty good secret sauce in terms of what events seem to work. I think we always have an opportunity with the Main Street closure to expand services, so we're going to continue to play with that. Fall into Millburn-Short Hills, I think, has a lot of potential. We're going to do a dry run this year and see what we learn. So I think right now with the 10 kind of signature events, that's plenty to keep us busy and plenty to pay for. But right now, this is what we're looking at in terms of that event portfolio. And with that, I am going to discuss our attachment 9, which is your 2024 draft budget. And I'm gonna just read from my notes so I don't miss anything, but so tonight, just for your knowledge, there's no vote occurring. This is just my opportunity to present to you what I think we need for next year. And certainly tonight you can ask questions, take this home with you, chew on a little bit. We can make changes all the way up until we have to publicize this prior to the October annual meeting. So just to start, so in 2023, so this year, our proposed projected, our total projected income is $289,538. That's at the top in the third column, right? 2023 projected. That's based on $204,000 assessment, $54,700 of my salary that's paid by the township. We did receive $9,000 from the town that was owed to us in 2021. They paid us late. The public art grant I mentioned, and then about $14,000 in miscellaneous funds and sponsorship. When you take the $20,000 contingency out that we have every year, our actual income is going to be $269,000, or our projected is $269,538. So in 2024, obviously we don't have the same funding sources confirmed. So I'm going to present this budget based just on the assessment, the township salary portion, which is required in the ordinance, and then an estimated $3,000 in unencumbered funds. And then we do have 2 grants. I'm going to anticipate a full $10,000 from Essex County. The budget lines will just be adjusted if we don't get as much. And then we're hoping to work with the town on some Clean Communities money that we didn't get a chance to do this year. And so when you look at that number at the bottom, we go from the budget of the total expenses of, the total budget is $269,538 this year. I'm proposing a budget of $258,158 for 2024, which is a difference of $16,318 in revenue. That revenue may change, obviously, once we start getting sponsorship. So that 16,000 should shrink. So then we get to income. Expenses. So in terms of expenses, I'm requesting a contract valued at $110,315 for 2024, which we'll discuss in closed session, and a contract valued at $60,000 for Amanda Dean. This is an increase of $17,000 for Amanda, which you see on the sheet there. It goes from $43,000 in column 3 to $60,000 in column 2. However, this is an increase from 25 hours per week to 37, making her essentially full-time. Additionally, I am not requesting an increase from 2023 to 2024. There is a $915 difference, but that's just an accounting item from from January through April of 2023. Regarding the technology line, I mentioned this earlier, email, tech support, and website are about $6,200 combined. So that is just budgeted in. Legal services will remain at $14,400 if we approve the proposal from Mr. Cooper, which is at the same fee as 2023. We'll discuss that in closed session. Our audit and tax filings will increase by $250 to $6,000. That's part of our scheduled increase in the contract, and insurance and board training will be $1,000 a piece. General operations is estimated to be $1,500, which covers organization membership, travel, postage, office supplies, etc. Then we get down to the programs and services line. Events and marketing has been reduced by $4,200 in 2023, from 2023 to 2024, with the expectation that we will be able to raise revenue from sponsorships. Obviously, I needed to find money somewhere to raise Amanda's rate. So we had to borrow from a variety of lines. This is one of them, but this is a line where we have the ability to get sponsorship. Live music has been broken out as its own line this year. We spent $8,100 this year on live music. I am conservatively budgeting $5,000 that I can commit to. Hopefully we can secure sponsorship to make up the difference. Streetscaping and placemaking has been reduced from $18,000 to $10,000. However, as I mentioned earlier, I am pursuing and prioritizing streetscaping grants for various projects. I reduced the budget line for business education by $5,500 because, as I mentioned, the bulk of the trainings that we did focused on financial development were not particularly well attended. So I've removed that from the service portfolio. And then public art is budgeted at 14,000 total, between what we would be responsible for through Essex County and matching money and what the county would give us. And so if that, as I mentioned earlier, if those numbers change in terms of what we're awarded, they'll simply just change in the spreadsheet. And at the bottom, you see our total spendable budget minus contingency is 253,158. So you go to the top, you see, or you take 253,158, you add the $20,000 contingency, that's 273,158. So the income is the 273, what we'll actually spend is 253. So that's what I'm asking for authorization on. It was a little challenging this year to try to make up that difference in the staffing money, but I think I've been very thoughtful in where we've borrowed and moved money around. And I think Amanda coming on full time will allow us to put on better events, to get better sponsorships. It will give me an opportunity to free up some time where I can do more grant writing. And so I think it's a good investment on that, and we'll certainly talk about it in executive, but right now, this is the draft budget that I've developed for next year. So I know I hit you with a lot of numbers, but I've been working on this for 3 months. So, but do you guys have any questions?
I have a statement. I'm thrilled that Amanda is spending more time in the town doing the hard work that she's been doing. And I'm happy that we found money to pay her more. And it's our own dream team. It's our own dream team. So
Thank you.
Yeah.
That concludes my statements.
Steve, just a quick question. Jackie whispered a good point to me. The intern, are we not going to get an intern, or are we going to anticipate hopefully getting a grant to fund an intern?
So the intern this year, she was with us for what, 8 weeks, something like that? 10 weeks. She was paid through some surplus money that we had. We had about $4,000 left over, so we just budgeted her out in terms of her hours and rate to hit that number. Right now, I would say I would not commit to an intern. I think once everything shakes out by the end of the year, we know how much we have left over. I think 3,000 is slightly conservative. I think we may end up with 4,000 or 5,000 left over that we're going to roll, plus obviously whatever's left in the bank and whatever in our contingency. But that's how I like to pay an intern, because it's just leftover money. And so we're not borrowing against anything else. But I think if we can be in that ballpark for $3,000 to $4,000, we can certainly bring on an intern.
And I definitely would want to have one, if anything, during the spring, because we just have so much going on. And some things just all have to happen at the same time, and there's only so many bodies. So we'll do what we can to get that set up and have that relief, hopefully in the spring.
We'll know in January.
Yeah.
You don't feel like you need an intern for November? You guys can handle, like, for the holiday season?
I mean, we're busy, but
We don't turn down help.
no, but a lot of what this is marketing, and it's just, it's not new this year.
Right.
And so those, the fire pits and stuff like that, you just get it set up.
Right. Well, you
They're just
also
different
now,
animals than the spring events.
okay, and you also now have all that equipment in your ownership, right? I mean,
Yeah, the budgets this year are gonna come down considerably for the winter villages, because we bought all the capital last year.
Right.
The fire
exactly,
pits,
right, you bought all the equipment, so.
Yeah. And hopefully also, we've learned how to do here for the holidays. We've learned how to do the winter villages. So now it's all that time spent planning and prepping can now be dedicated to other things.
Thank you for putting this all together and giving the thoughtful insights on it. A couple thoughts. One is, I know it would be wonderful for us to officially have more Amanda time, so that's exciting. I know Amanda already interfaces a lot with the businesses, but hearing what the businesses want in terms of training, it sounds like also you could be doing a bunch of those training or small training groups, et cetera. So I'm hoping with the more time that you could be helping do that. It's great to hear you say verbally on programs and services, because right, optically you see the numbers, and I think one would say, oh, why would we be going down on these areas when this is like the heart of what we do? So I would love us to somehow include some notes or convey and come up with some actual targeted numbers on sponsorships and grants. And as you said, with Amanda working full-time, that's gonna give Steve you more time to work on that, and this is one of your areas of expertise that you've already achieved a lot on. But I'd love to see us have like some targeted numbers so that anyone who looks at this, you know, whether it's a note or whatever's the right thing in the format, everyone has kind of the full picture
Yeah,
of what we're hoping for.
absolutely. I think what I can do here is let me add another column that just says, you know, for argument's sake, events and marketing, 20,743 out of the budget, anticipated 30,000 spent.
Or targeted, I mean, I think we should put in
Target.
realistic numbers, you know, that's,
I mean, you know,
and
the hard part, right, is it's tough to find any money for staffing and capacity building. It's tough to, certainly, it's almost impossible general operating, especially for a bid in a town of this affluence. You gotta go out and fundraise it and sponsor it, and so events you can sell, placemaking you can sell. So that was where I could borrow, but I think certainly it would help when we get to our October meeting to have that. What are we really putting on the street, right?
And I also hope with all of the new businesses that have come in, that Explore has really helped bring in and get them up and running, they will hopefully in turn become sponsors because they believe in what we do.
You know, speaking of which, I have something that Tracy has to look into. So we know, the total number of new businesses that have opened in 2023 is 23. We have another 13 that are currently under construction, so that's 26. And we have another 5 that are opening imminently. So that's 31 businesses that will be opening in the calendar year, which.
Wait, no, 41, 23.
Did I miss that?
13,
Yeah, plus 5,
It's
it's 41.
36 plus 5.
Oh, 41. Better. Just got 10 free ones there, my bad arithmetic.
Are we offering all of the new opening businesses a little party? Or-
I tell them that
Little
you show
fanfare.
up just with giant scissors and, you know, Richard
I like-
has to have the
I like
ring.
those giant scissors.
Honestly, you know, it's funny you asked that. It's a bit of an antiquated thing, the ribbon cutting. What we do, and actually we just had a reel today, so Red's Cuts Barbers left, they were replaced by another hair salon, Studio 260. So we were chatting with them and they said, listen, let us come over, we'll do digital marketing for you. And so Amanda went over today, filmed all the content and put a
Wait,
reel.
where is this location?
It's,
260.
oh no, the name is from another place. It's on the other side of the parking lot that we park in.
Behind the mattress.
Behind the ethical mattress.
Right.
Yeah,
So it used to be Red's Cuts and now it's Studio 260. Lovely woman, great business, beautiful interior. I said, we don't really do ribbon cuttings. There's not a lot of value. 100 times more people are gonna see your reel on social media than will ever come to your ribbon cutting. Let's save time and money and be modern. So that's something that we offer every business, you know, after we do the hand holding through, hey, I'm thinking about opening a place in Millburn. Do you know any real estate that's available? All the way through the permitting process, all the way through, you know, then we finally get to, hey, we're gonna film a reel, and she did a beautiful one today, so that's where we're headed.
I've also been doing one-on-ones with businesses, just to get them acclimated with marketing. What are their needs, what audiences are they trying to get a hold of, what partnerships may make sense, what introductions. So I have to put together the total number I've done this year, but I did 3 in the last, I guess, 6 weeks. And it's just really nice to get to know some of these people and help them, you know, be successful. So that's another thing that we do if we're not doing a marketing, you know, a reel or something like that, we're sitting down.
Steve,
Yes,
when you provide us with our weekly or our sort of bi-weekly updates, could we just include the new businesses in that
sure.
as a data point, you know, please welcome, you know, and
Absolutely.
maybe, yeah, or a link to to the reel or something. So we're all aware of it, of the new businesses as they come in. I think that's important.
You got it.
Thank you.
Any other comments on that? We're moving on. Steve, anything?
That's it.
Content rich.
We missed you guys. We haven't seen you since June.
Yeah, I just want to say thank you for the amazing summer events. I mean,
Yes.
it's really
Incredible.
popping all over town, and thank you for.
Did you give her thanks?
I did.
All right.
Yeah.
I was out
Yes.
taking water, but there was some serious schlepping going on this Saturday, and Tracy was in the heart of it. She walking around nasty weather.
First lesson,
She was
really,
all-
the whole summer though, I say this was really, and Millburn-Short Hills was very enhanced by everything. You guys made it happen, so thank you.
Okay, just before we go to public comments, we will be going into executive session after public comment, but we don't have any action items, correct? So we won't be taking any action today
That's
at
correct.
this meeting. Okay.
Thank you.
I'm
yes,
sorry
sir.
to interrupt. I want to make sure that we're positive because I did see some resolutions in the packet.
The resolution is to go into closed session.
So,
It's a resolution to enter closed session.
Yes.
okay, not to approve anything.
Not any
That's going,
formal
it's just good. Great. I just wanted to be double and triple sure. Thank you.
Public comments, when invited to speak, please come to the lectern, or if you're online, just state your name, speak loudly so that your comments can be understood and properly recorded. If you have a prepared statement, please, we encourage you to copy that to Tracy at explore.millburn-shorthills.org. And speakers, you're to limit your comments to 3 minutes. As if you're online and on Zoom, you will also have an opportunity to speak. Mr. Feld, come on up.
Good evening, Jeffrey Feld, a Short Hills resident, Lashana Tova, for those who will be celebrating the holidays. I'll try to break this out into 4 parts. As to the audit, we heard there was a clean audit. The key is to look at the footnotes. There's no reference to the Bear Properties litigation. There was discussion about a letter that was submitted by the executive director, was not included in the packet, so I guess I have to make an Oprah request to get a copy of that, because we don't know what the audit said was based on his representation. Because this is a quasi-public entity where there is a portion that comes from taxpayers' monies, I'm not sure, and you have an attorney, whether the board members had to file certification that they read certain portions of the audit, which is consistent with what you have to do when you're on the TC. You have to look at different sections. I don't know the answer. As to your proposed budget, you have to understand the context of this budget. Remember December 2018, where the former Main Street downtown SID dissolved because administration became too overwhelming over the expenses. I believe that you should have a comparative analysis of what you're paying your professionals, that being your attorney, your executive director, and your assistant marketing people compared to other local SIDs. I say that in the context of Bernardsville, where there's a very big debate whether to dissolve that SID because of the cost. Remember, no taxation without representation. In 2020, when we had the campaign, there was a promise by 2 candidates who are basically lame ducks right now that no taxpayers' monies would be used to fund the SID. I think we have to revisit that. Because also when the SID was created, there was a promise that we go back to review the cost benefits of this entity. I talked about the audit. I talked about the budget, about mediation. A lot occurred in the last 60 days when we weren't here about the mediation. I think you need to look about what occurred prior to Mr. Cooper's and Mr. Grillo's arrival. No opinions ever delivered by the municipal attorney. The municipal attorney represented this entity. Why? You say you didn't join the case, but there's case law there. You've been well aware of this case. When Mr. Cooper was retained originally in May of 2021, I asked specifically, would he be participating? He said that's not part of his retention. So that's a voluntary decision by this board not to participate in the litigation. You had knowledge of the case, you made a decision not to join. And this town had a decision not to join you into the litigation. As to the township attorney's last 60 days. This is a statutory, bare property is a statutory interpretation case. The municipal attorney at least 3 times has agreed with my analysis and rejected his prior analysis, so you might want to look at that. The TC minutes were
I just
sanitized.
asked you to start.
I'll be
wrapping
real
up,
quickly.
wrapping both.
Well, we're talking about the Main Street closure. There's an issue about when you received the opinion dated June 29th. It was never time stamped or dated. There's questions about whether the minutes were sanitized, because when you had the Main Street closure, there was question about the statute that you went under. No, when you read the minutes and what was said, it's not there. I'm just saying, be cautious when we go mediation, when you go into closed executive session, you might want to revisit whether you need to join that case, especially in light of a lawsuit that's been filed against McCarter English for not obtaining an opinion regarding a loan that was described in this week's law journal. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Do we have anybody online who wants to speak? Okay, if you're there online, please just give us your name.
Good evening, Perry Urso. I am in agreement with Attorney Jeffrey Feld. I wanted to also request in my comments a comparison for the other municipality SIDS, and he already covered that. I would like to add, however, though, what will be the expected assessment percentage? What would that be with the newly proposed budget? Because Ms. Lieberberg, if she could remember when they adopted this ordinance, she was very adamant about the 0.0067. Isn't that right, Ms. Lieberberg? So is that number going to stay the same, or are we now 3 years later into this, it's going to change, which is exactly what our concern was. Additionally to the, Mr. Feld was talking about our municipal attorney and his emissions. I would like to say, at what time would you agree that isn't it time to meet finally with Mr. Feld and discuss any issues with him and take care of this mediation once and for all? Regarding Ms. Lieberberg's shout out for the same Main Street closure, where is yours and Mr. Wasserman's promise to the other districts? This entity is consistently catering to the same old and businesses. And lastly, where's this board on safety? In response to Mr. Grillo and Ms. Lieberberg's exchange regarding Lot 14, I did request a presentation in front of the TC, and sadly, my request was denied. Therefore, I beg to differ Mr. Grillo's analysis. Thank you and have a nice evening.
Thank you. If anybody else online?
Hi, do you hear me?
Yes, just give us your name on the record.
Yeah, hi, it's Vicky Powell, business owner in 358C Millburn Avenue. Welcome back. I wanted to say a couple things. First, I don't know who's in charge with cleanliness in the downtown, but I have noticed the last week that it's very dirty on the streets. I know in the past, when it was the old SID, we used to have a group go and clean, but I don't know if it's still doing. I don't know if it's the SID's responsibility or the town's responsibility, but the summer months, especially with the outside dining, it really needs to be addressed a little bit better than it has been. I mean, I noticed it last week and I said to myself, it is very dirty downtown. So that was one of my comments. My second comment is I'm happy that you're going in closed session and that you're talking about bringing Amanda on full time. I think that's just what we need. We need her to be more involved in the town and doing all the projects that she's doing. She can't do it on a part-time basis. We need her help. So I definitely am for it. Vote, vote, vote. Yes, yes, yes. And the last comment I want to make is in regards to talking about the other SIDs and executive director and staffing costs. I was involved in the past SID, and like I've said before in the past, when we were bringing our executive director as a full-time, we studied other towns, Summit, Westfields. I don't know, there were so many towns that we studied, and what we're paying our staff is definitely in line what it was 7 years ago, 6 years ago. So it's not out of the ordinary. They do a bang up job. We get a lot of stuff done. They work hard. They're doing an awesome job. Kudos to both of them, and that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else up there, Jesse? No? Okay.
Can I respond to two items?
Sure.
So the first one, I'll go in reverse order. Ms. Powell brought up the cleanliness in the streets. That is something that the town has clean communities money from the state. So Alex, Jesse, and I have been working with DPW on scheduling cleanups. It was quite an issue during the summertime with all the people on the streets. They were leaving garbage, et cetera. We did have a DPW staffer on Sunday mornings. We used the Clean Communities money for that. We can certainly, I don't know how much is left in the budget, but we can certainly have somebody come on and do that kind of work as well. So I'll speak to Alex about that in the morning. We'll try to figure out what we can do there. In terms of the assessment calculation, I just want to answer that because it's a technical question that is related to every single person. Ms. Urso is not correct in saying that there's a locked-in assessment rate. That's not how a SID works. So what you do is you calculate, you know what your assessment is, right? So our assessment, as we talked about in the budget, is $204,000, right? You then look in the tax assessor's office as to, and who prepares the roll, how much each of the properties are assessed. So if a property is 100% commercial, it is taxed at 100% of its assessed value. Then what we do is we back in a percentage to take all of the values of all the properties times a number that gets you to 204. So what we have right now is all the properties are combined together. We multiply that by 0.0077%. That gets us to as close to 204 as you could possibly get without rounding error. So it's like 205 or something. But that is how you calculate the rate. So the rate may change over time. That is not, I don't think that's the intent of Ms. Urso's question. It's really what is the assessment, right? So if it goes from, if it stays at 204, but you have a bunch of properties that are now occupied and are worth more, then the percentage goes down, right? If you have a high vacancy rate, the percentage goes up. So it's really, the rate is immaterial. It's just a number that gets you to a final assessment. Her question really should have been phrased, what is the assessment? And the assessment is 204, which is what it's been for all of the years that we've been in existence. So hopefully that's clear, that clears her question, but the rate will always change. The rate changes on what the value of the properties are. The question really should be, what is the assessment itself, which is a dollar value.
And that's a fixed number.
Right now, it's been fixed at 204, but the rate, it very well may change. I mean, we've had a bunch of properties come online. Just think when Charlie Brown's, Nadej Nichols property and the Wells Fargo property come online, each of them will have a commercial portion. That will then go on the SID rolls. So now that those properties have been added, everybody else, the percentage will come down because you've now added value to the rolls. So the 0.0077, if those three properties came on tomorrow, well, January 1st, for argument's sake, that 0.0077 would go down because we don't need to collect as much per property because we brought more. So ideally, bringing down the vacancy rate, which we've done quite well, and you'll see that in our report next month, actually brings down the cost per property because you've now occupied those and made them more valuable.
Wait a second, I'll discuss that later.
Is that it? That was your, those are.
I just thought I would answer a question with facts. That's it.
No, I know, but I didn't know if you had more.
No.
More.
Unless you guys want to talk about assessment rate. which is
No,
exciting stuff.
no. Okay, we're gonna take a motion to go into executive session. You'll see on the end of our agenda, we have 2024 contracts discussion and some potential ordinance and bylaws revisions. We have a motion to go into executive? Motion. Second? Okay.